So we're approaching Galerie Nicolas Robert, and we're gonna see the work of Devon Pryce. I hope it's still open, because sometimes these places today open and then you got the all kind of sitting happening closely. So that's King Street down there. And if you come up here, the gallery up there is Queen Street. And to get to Nanak Lane, you've passed it. And then there's some kind of here. So here we are. And I guess in the summertime, it is open so that you have. I love these kind of garage doors because they probably was a home space, and so the complex has a couple of things in it. Interesting. So that's what's here. There's little artsy spaces, right? So I almost want to roll up, but let's see if. Okay, so it opens up. All right. And the work is strong, eh? Devon, the work is strong. And it's your own style. I don't think looks a little rough, but oh God, it's made me think of St. Thomas in Jamaica, which is this feeling and this vibe. And I think his family is from that, he has heritage there. So it all fits. It makes me think of also Leighton Estick's work, which has a similar feel and vibe. And I love it. I'd love to know what the aesthetic is and the story is and narrative is behind the work and the series of work and the feeling and the vibe and what he's saying. Hello, how are you? Good. Not bad. I'm just checking out the work. How would you talk about the work?
Devon was born in Guelph, and he moved to Toronto to do his undergrad degree at OCAD.
Right.
He's been here since then, a couple of years. And he started an interest in, definitely to a degree, in hindsight, the figure, but he was painting sort of around it for a while. So he'd paint images, like interior images or still life paintings, for example, cars with the door open, or like a jacket, like pieces of clothing, but not always, and rarely actually including the body specifically.
Right.
And then he moved into a time when he was painting the body, but not generally disguising the facial features, like this in this painting you see here that's still sort of in that realm. And for this series, he started to allow the face to become part of the work, and then he also worked with the doubling in this work, so which you see in many of the paintings. He's thinking about a lot of different things. It's hard to sum up. One of the things for this show is this idea that we hold sort of multiple versions of ourselves, and we sort of decide or are forced to let one or the other version out depending on the context. They're not self-portraits, although they do resemble him, and he does use his own body as a reference when he's painting the figure. But really, he's very focused on wanting the work to connect with people individually, so not necessarily say anything directly, but let people come to it from their own perspective and feel what they feel when they're in front of it. So, I can tell you a lot of people have connected on a very human level. I think the work is pretty full of empathy. Specifically, he's focused on hands and very much the feeling of touch, and like in this case that you're looking at, what it's like to interlace hands or to touch or have your head touched. This idea over here with the raspberries of like the sort of fruit on your fingers and the sort of feeling of having berries in your hands. The hands are really a way to express personality too, and identity, and yeah, you can sort of tell a lot about a person from that as well. Yeah, otherwise he paints his surroundings or things that he remembers, places that are fond to him. Some of it's imaginary, some is based in real life. But yeah, it's all, he looks at art history a lot, so there are a lot of masters in his mind when he's painting, which I think in some paintings more than others you can really see. I think there's something quite like, I mean, there's such a tenderness in the work. And of course a melancholy, you can see that in the expression here. So it speaks very much, I think, to being human, you know, the sort of way that, like in a romantic sense, in that it can be very beautiful and poetic, and also very difficult and traumatizing, and I think that's all in there.
Yeah, because it's funny when you said that about referencing the masters. I was thinking about his style, because I've followed his work for a while now and watched it evolve in terms of it's a little bit rough still, it's a little bit raw and not like a whole refined kind of presentation. So it's not surrealist in a sense. So there's also sort of like vagueness to still even the strokes and the composition of it all. And I was thinking, Sonia, as you said it about Master, I thought, oh, Modigliani, I think of that kind of style, right? That's a little bit kind of, and at the same time, that word of melancholia that you described, right? So if you think about those wavy kind of bodies that are not sharply refined, right? And so there's a whole idea of emotion and feeling that is expressed. So it's interesting that you said that. And I'm noticing also the nature, right? Like a lot of them are like, I think of this one, and there's a few others, like this one, of course. And of course, we talked about, think of the domestic, like that one over there, sort of, and the double figures. And of course, the double figures, when I saw this one, I saw this sort of posted online, I thought, oh, and I thought of as, two men, but it also could be himself loving himself, right?
Yeah, I think he does a really good job of almost saying many things, but never quite saying them explicitly. So it really is very much open. It leaves itself quite open to the viewer to kind of experience it from their own perspective, and that really is what he's expressed to me as his interest in making this work. He does want it to be, I guess, relatively interpretable. Is that even a word? But yeah, like something that you can relate to from your own position. And I think in that way they're really empathetic works. Like they generate empathy, but they also they ask for it and they give it at the same time.
It's always interesting when you can look at work and be left with lots of questions as well. So I think it's this, I wonder if it's that. Yeah. Because of course, I think one of the most important things that I've appreciated with some artists is they say, once I create my work, it belongs to the world. Yeah. Right? I might have an idea of the message I'm trying to say, but it's always interesting to have the work be expansive in the fact that many other people bring ever different experiences to it. Because of course, your gaze is informed by your life history and experience, and so it means this thing to me, or I see that or pick that up. Even if the artist never meant it, or the artist some guy, I don't know, let's see that, but of course, that's what it means to have humans relate. And I think the thing about art is it creates conversation and engagement, right?
Absolutely.
So beautifully done. Well, thank you. Yeah, do you mind saying your name so that we can hear it?
Oh, sure. My name's Alex.
Okay, great. And you're here and the work's for sale as well?
Yes, it is.
Okay, so I'll look at a list later on. And at some point, I'll check in with him. And the show closes this week, right?
Yes, the Saturday's the last day. So.
Okay. Will he be around? Do you know if he's be around for
I don't think he plans on coming in. I don't think he has any meetings.
Well, I'll touch base with him another time because we cross paths every now and again, and maybe he'll tell me a little bit more about he was doing with. He told me a show was coming up.
Yeah.
And I know you have some pieces also in Montreal as well. I think.
Not right now, but I mean that's not out of the realm. This is a Montreal Gallery that has a Toronto location. Yeah. But there's no work there right now. He does have one piece up in Toronto in a group show at MKG 127.
Okay, that's what I'm thinking of.
Yeah.
Is that the one in Dundas?
Yeah, Dundas near like right at Gladstone, basically. Yeah.
Okay, let's pop in there and look at it.
I think this might be the last weekend for that show too. Yeah. I'm pretty sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, no, I'm glad to see his work continuing. And actually met him years ago as an art student.
Oh, wow.
Like on the street somewhere, and I thought he was carrying a piece.
Oh,
And I took a photo of him for my IG, which is
Yeah.
still up. And then since then, we've just crossed paths as
Oh,
his
that's nice.
career has evolved. So
Yeah, I mean, it's incredible. Like in this piece is actually the most recent in the show. He had the work done, and he had about a week before the show opened, and he said, oh, maybe I'll make another work before the show, and then he showed up like a few days later with this painting.
Wow.
But yeah, and then this happens to be the one that is, in terms of a timeline, is the earliest work in the room.
Right.
And I think there you can really see a pretty distinct stylistic difference, actually. Like the palette, for one thing, is sort of the deeper hues, the more burgundy sort of palette, and then versus the slightly more pastel leaning work that he's made for this show. And as you're recognizing too, like the way he's using the brush, he's always used oil paint, or at least in the time that I've known his work, in quite a thin way.
Right.
But for these works, he's really highlighting specifically by removing, whereas in this one, he's still mixing paint to create the highlights. I don't know if that's a change that will stick forever necessarily, but that is something you can see in the. And the other thing I thought of when you were talking about Modigliani is also like because Devon clearly knows how to render the anatomy of the body, but then he ignores what he's supposed to do, right? And does what he wants with proportion. And even in this one, like the arm is almost feels dislocated, like the right arm is
like,
sort of very...
It's like part of the treescape.
Yeah, it's a little bit like a tree.
It's like blending into the landscape, even though the leaves fall on the shoulder and the hair blends with the leaves on the left. Yeah.
That's another thing he does so well is the figure-ground relationship. So in this case, it's a really good example because you see, if you look at the feet, he's clearly well in front of the trees, but if you look at his head, he's sort of immersed inside the trees, and it's actually kind of impossible what's going on there. So I think he does a really amazing job of conveying reality on some level, but with this like an impression of it, more of like a feeling and overall sort of energy of it, rather than being exact about anything or specific.
What is this piece called? Do you know the title name?
I should remember, but I can tell you it is called. Yeah, it's such a beautiful title. The giant tree sleeps in its tiny seed.
And that could be the person, it could be the plant life, it could be the environment around him. It's a great titling for what could be all kinds of interpretations. Yeah. And this one, just because these are the ones I've been holding on to when I talk to you.
This one is called Away With You, and then in brackets, Inertia. Yeah.
Really strong.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for talking to me.
Yeah,
Can I carry that?
What?
Yeah,
Oh, I thought you were...
No, but that too. But
do you want to look at it or take it?
No, just to look at it when I walk around, just so I can.
Yeah.
Oh, and of course that one's so darned.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's the well. Actually,
there's a few more.
The small ones almost all, but the legs are still there. And this I'm actually in the middle of. We're close.
Okay.
Close to that one.
That's really beautiful work.
Yeah.
Beautiful work. It took me a while to get in here because of how busy I am, but I thought I had to catch it before I saw that it was going to be ending, and I gotta get in there.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Thank you
for
for
letting me know. And I'll edit out your in the early part when you said I'll just edit that out, so we'll only bridge to when I start and then your voice after.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
How would I find it?
I'm on Instagram. I'm CLOGLO.
Okay.
Cloglo.
CLOGLO.
Yes.
And that would link to the Instagram?
That's Instagram.
Oh, sorry, that would link to the YouTube.
Not necessarily. No. I'm not good at linking. But on YouTube, it's VIS space RIA.
VIS space RIA. Okay.
Yeah, on YouTube.
On YouTube.
And then Cloglo on Instagram. Nicolas is strong about this. So I'd love to hear from him. He says, that, okay, playing possum. I was thinking about hiding and trying to find something. So what does this really mean? Playing possum. This detail. This one is the devil you know. This one is called ambidextrous. Yeah, sold. Makes sense. And always these little details in the back. This one's a souvenir. This could be very, makes me think about cutting or scars or where you get beaten on your legs. But it could also be other things. If only you would see me. That's what I'm thinking it says. See me. Let's see me. See, there's a whole story going on here.
Thank you so much. No problem. No problem. Thank you so much. Have a good one.
I like this. Love this one. And this one's called Touch and Go. So touch and go. Reminds me of, again, being a kid in the Caribbean, we're walking bare feet, which we do on the beach, which we do here in the summer, which we do at different points. And this one is called The Difference Between Us. So many layers to this, right? It could be race, it could be gender, it could be all the diversities that we think about across, that we work across, connect across, relate across. But it could also be to ourselves, right? And this could be about love, relationships, negotiating the differences within us as we do that. So relationships in all kinds of ways, but I could totally be totally off. Anyway, Devon, you did your thing. You did your thing with this exhibition. It's beautiful. Beautiful. Yeah, fabulous. In this great space, actually. I'll probably now come more to it because this has brought me in here to even pay attention and notice it. I don't think I ever walked by and noticed it before. At least I can't remember. I might have, but I just didn't realize. And this great door in the summertime where you just roll it up and walk through. And then you have some nice across the street, you know, color. Yeah. It's the kind of scene here on Queen Street West. Great show. Great show. Love it. Lovely, lovely. And then that outside.